Hello friends, Mr. Burrell here. We're in the unit talking about polynomials. In the last video, in the last lesson, we talked about adding polynomials together. Today we're going to be talking about subtracting polynomials together. So really nothing terribly different. We're just going to tweak a few things when we're talking about subtracting polynomials. But today, after this video, this is what I hope you are able to do. I hope you're able to subtract polynomials and understand that subtracting two polynomials together results in another polynomial. So that's kind of the goal, the objectives for today's lesson. So when we are subtracting polynomials, again, we are just combining like terms. We talked about when we are adding polynomials, how when we're adding polynomials, we're just combining like terms. Reminder, like terms are terms like 3x and 6x, or 3x squared and 6x squared, or 3 and 6. They are terms that have the exact same variable with the exact same exponent. So as we're going into talking about subtracting polynomials there, though, just as a reminder, what happens when you subtract a negative? So for example, if I took like 6 minus a negative 3, what is that? What happens when I subtract a negative? Well, two negatives make it positive. When I subtract a negative, that turns into 6 plus 3. So like 6 minus negative 3 is really 6 plus 3, which is 9. So when we start talking about subtracting, that's going to be something important to remember. So keep that in your brain. So let's look at some examples here. So let me start with these up here. I have 7 minus negative 3. Again, minusing a negative makes a positive. 7 minus negative 3 is 7 plus 3, which is 10. Those signs change. 2x minus negative 8x is really 2x plus 8x, which is 10x. 3x squared minus 2x squared is just 1x squared. So those individual problems, again, they weren't too bad, right? Those aren't terribly difficult problems. Now let's put them into one big problem. So I have 3x squared plus 2x plus 7 minus 2x squared minus 8x minus 3. So this minus is out in front of this parentheses here. So because this subtraction sign, because this minus or this negative is in front of this whole parentheses here, all of these terms need to be multiplied by a negative. Or in other words, all of those signs need to change. So let me rewrite this real quick. 3x squared plus 2x plus 7. And then this positive 2x squared is going to change to a negative 2x squared. This negative 8x is going to change to a positive 8x. And this negative 3 is going to change to a positive 3. So this negative sign is going to change each of these signs here. I'm going to distribute, if you will, that negative into this parentheses. So this again becomes a negative 2x squared, positive 8x, and a positive 3. So I changed all the signs. And now it just becomes an addition problem where the signs in this second parentheses have switched. So again, now if I'm looking at combining like terms, I have 3x squared and minus 2x squared, which is a positive 1x squared. I have 2x plus 8x, which is 10x. And I have 7 plus 3, which is 10. Which is precisely what I got up here. Okay? So nothing too crazy. The mistakes that I most often see is with this negative stuff. We forget to change the signs, or we forget what to do with that minus sign. So let's practice a couple other examples. So in this first one, I have x cubed minus 4x squared plus 9x minus negative 7x plus 5. So because this is being minus, that minus is going to change each of these signs. So really, if I eliminate the parentheses, if I just get rid of them, I have x cubed minus 4x squared plus 9x plus 7x minus 5. See that? I just changed each of those signs. Now it turns into an addition problem. So x cubed, there aren't any x cubes, any other x cubes. X squared, I have negative 4x plus 7x, which is a positive 3x. Oh, sorry. That was my bad. I just have a negative 4x squared. See what I did there? I made a mistake. I can't combine x squareds and x's because they're not like terms. So the x squareds, that's all the x squareds I have. And then I have 9x and 7x. So 9x plus 7x is plus 16x. And then I have this minus 5. So you have to be careful. You have to watch. Even I'm going to make mistakes like that. You need to watch and make sure that you're only combining together your like terms. Let's do another one. Negative 8x squared plus 3x plus 6 minus negative 5x cubed plus 2x squared plus x minus 7. So I'm going to go ahead and rewrite this expression. I'm going to get rid of the parentheses. So in order to get rid of this parentheses, this negative, in order to change it to a plus, is going to change all of these signs. So this turns into negative 8x squared plus 3x plus 6 plus 5x cubed minus 2x squared minus x plus 7. See that okay? So now I'm going to combine like terms. Here's an x cubed, so I have 5x cubed. Here's an x squared. Here's an x squared. I have negative 8x squared and negative 2x squared. When I combine those together, I get negative 10x squared. I have a 3x and I have a negative x. 3x minus 1x is a plus 2x. And then I have a 6 and a 7. 6 plus 7 is a positive 13. So adding those polynomials together, I get 5x cubed minus 10x squared plus 2x plus 13. Okay, let's do one more. This last one I have 7x cubed minus 2x squared plus 3x plus 6 minus 9x cubed plus 3x squared minus 7x plus 2. This is a subtraction problem. So I have 7x cubed minus 2x squared. I'm just writing this out, getting rid of the parentheses here. In order to get rid of this negative, in order to change it to a positive, if I'm subtracting this whole thing here, each of these signs are going to change. So each of those signs are going to flip. So this turns into minus 9x cubed minus 3x squared plus 7x minus 2. Okay? So now again, looking for my like terms, I have 7x cubed and negative 9x cubed, which is negative 2x cubed. I have negative 2x squared and negative 3x squared, which is negative 5x squared. I have 3x, let me put a box around that one. I have 3x plus 7x, which is a plus 10x. And then I have a positive 6 and a negative 2, which makes a positive 4. So I'm left with negative 2x cubed minus 5x squared plus 10x plus 4. Okay, so that's all we're doing. The only difference between adding polynomials and subtracting polynomials is when I have this minus in front of a set of parentheses, that minus has to distribute to every term inside that parentheses on the right-hand side, which will change each of the signs. So I'm putting these same problems up again, except I'm just showing you another way that you can kind of think of grouping these polynomials together, combining like terms. So notice like in this polynomial, once I changed the signs, I wrote one polynomial underneath the other polynomial, lining up all the like terms. So like in this polynomial, I lined up the x's. In this polynomial, once I switched the signs, I put the x cubes in on top of each other, the x squareds on top of each other, the x's on top of each other, the numbers on top of each other. Same here. See that? So if I go in and I add these together, I just kind of add straight down and I get 5x cubed minus 10x squared plus 2x plus 13. That's another way if you struggle with knowing which terms you're supposed to combine together. This is a nice way to kind of group them all together so you don't get lost. Okay? Not necessary, but that's another tool for you. So just to double check, when with all these problems that I've done so far, when I subtracted those two polynomials together, did I still get a polynomial? So let me go back here. When I did all these subtraction problems, did I still get polynomials? Well, yeah, it didn't change. I still have polynomials, still have variables multiplied by constants and taken to different exponents separated by addition and subtraction. That's what a polynomial is. So when I subtract two polynomials together, yes, I still get a polynomial. Okay, let's take a look at an example of a real-world problem you might see where we would have to subtract polynomials. So this problem, it says the profit for a business can be computed by taking the revenue subtracted by the expenses. So revenue is how much money the company brings in. Expenses is how much money the company spends. The revenue for a local pizza parlor can be represented by this function. R of p equals negative 30p squared plus 480p. So this function, this polynomial, represents the revenue. That's how much money they make. And the expenses, so the expenses can be represented by this function. E of p, or expenses, is equal to negative 15p plus 1020, where p stands for the price of the pizza. Write a polynomial that represents the profit this pizza place makes. Well, profit is equal to revenue minus expenses. That's what it told me up here, that profit is equal to the revenue subtracted by the expenses. Again, revenue is how much money you bring in, expenses is how much you spend. So the revenue polynomial is this one right here, negative 30p squared plus 480p. That's the revenue polynomial. I'm going to subtract my expenses polynomial, which is negative 15p plus 1020. Okay, so if I need to subtract these together, because there's a minus sign here, this minus is going to distribute to each of these terms in here and change those signs. So if I want to write this without parentheses, so I can just combine everything together, I get negative 30p squared plus 480p. This turns into a plus 15p minus 1020. Okay? So now I can combine these together. Let's see. I have a p squared term, so this is going to be equal to negative 30p squared. I have two p terms, 480p plus 15p. Well, that's plus 495p. And then minus 1020 here at the end is all by itself. So the polynomial that represents my profit, how much money I make, is negative 30p squared plus 495p minus 1020. And since p stands for the price of the pizza, depending on how much I sell my pizza for, that'll tell me how much profit I make. Okay. So that's it. That's all I've got for you in this lesson today. Hopefully now by the end of this, you're able to feel more comfortable with subtracting polynomials. Again, this isn't something terribly foreign. You've been exposed to it before. Hopefully you feel a little bit more comfortable with it. And hopefully you understand that subtracting two polynomials together results in another polynomial. So I hope that was helpful. Please don't hesitate to reach out to me if you have any questions whatsoever. And I hope that you enjoyed that as much as I did.